Well, look, when you say I'm quitting my job, I'm leaving New York, basically you look like a lunatic to all your friends. Like it's pretty much game over. You can say goodbye to your friends. You're definitely saying goodbye to your girlfriend. Even your parents are like, I don't know about this one, dude. Like, they didn't they didn't go to Ivy League schools. They didn't work on Wall Street. They fought a lot harder to get to where they were, so to see their son sort of like looking as though he's throwing it all away, it was a pretty ugly moment in history. But for me, it's like people are like, "You're so brave." It's like it's not about bravery. It was just like, well, I'm gonna literally be a zombie, dead man walking if I don't do this. Period.
About fulfillment.
Fulfillment for me, just survival. I couldn't have done the other thing another year. So, and I mean, I stuck it out. The crazy story here is I actually I don't think I've ever told this story. I got rid of everything that I owned, and I was sleeping on my high school buddy's couch with all my suits hung up in his closet to basically get over the hump to collect my bonus and quit. Now, I had, I think, another week or 2 weeks, and I went out to the the Far Hills, that horse race, the Far Hills steeplechase, whatever.
Oh yeah, steeplechase.
Yeah. So yeah, for everyone listening, Matt's from the northern New Jersey area, and there's this big old party that they throw in the country. They pretend like it's still England or something. Everyone dresses like a jackass, and it's basically an opportunity to just drink and forget that there's horses running around in the background. But basically, I go to that thing. Who do I see out of the corner of my eye that I had not seen in years? Was my high school sweetheart, and we locked eyes. And I'm literally living on a couch, um, with my stuff like stuffed into one of those like Bed Bath and Beyond closets that you can buy for like $50. And we had a drink, and that was it, man. I was like, okay, well, I'm sticking around. And then we got back together, and I got another apartment, bought everything again, went to Restoration Hardware, bought a $5,000 table, and I was back at it for another year until, the rest of the story. I just had to get out of Dodge. But so not only did I almost do it, I was like, I did the pump fake. I was like, I'm out. Just kidding. Oh, wait, no, I'm still here. And that was as ridiculous as that sounds, and the amount of money that cost and the heartache that caused. I almost had to do it because I got to live two lives. I got to, in that moment, feel what it was like to be free on the other side, and then get sucked back into it and go, oh, this is a nightmare.
I think that's almost human nature, right? You were dealing with pressure probably from your parents that, whether you realized it or not, was a certain amount of bow shock into like transitioning into that new lifestyle that you were really shooting for. So yeah. You do have the influence of the parents and your friends and the people that are close to you and that love you, making you think that maybe I should give it another shot, right? So you finally jumped, and now is that when you became really rich guy, or at least began to achieve that kind of persona?
No, man, I had to travel around the world, realize that New York wasn't actually the city that didn't sleep and the greatest city in the world. Turns out there's a lot of cities that don't sleep. Turns out there's a lot of great cities. Turns out there's a lot of cool people. Turns out people dress great in Madrid and are fashionable and sophisticated, and the food's great. I took myself on a tour, and I met people. I basically just forced myself to become something new, or to just live without boundaries. And that was a several year process. I mean, for me, it was to become more creative. So the first thing I did was I got something published by this really nerdy publication called Timothy McSweeney's, right? Which is this, if you're a comedy nerd or you're a lit nerd, you've heard of McSweeney's. I wrote one piece. It was the first thing I've ever written. It got published immediately, which is unheard of. And so I said, I'm going to be an author. That's what I'm going to do. And then I proceeded to write 30, 40 more pieces, sent to Harper's, New Yorker, The Atlantic, rejection. I think I got rejected 40 plus times. And I was like, do I really want to be an author? Nah, you know what I want to be? I want to be a rock star. So I went ahead and I did that. I eventually moved to New Orleans, went on Craigslist, found two experienced musicians who just so happen to be complete badasses, and in all the ways. And I just didn't tell anyone where I came from, and I just showed up. I started playing guitar and singing in a band in New Orleans.
That's incredible. Now, why didn't you tell anybody where you came from? Well, first of all, because you're a northerner, right? They teach history a little bit differently down there.
Yeah. If you wanna, distance yourself from people fast in New Orleans, tell them that you went to an Ivy League school, used to work on a trading floor, and made millions of dollars. It's the quickest way to become an asshole in New Orleans.
Go figure.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Don't do that. So I just was this like mystery figure, and I played in a band. I mean, we were on the radio. We won Best New Band in New Orleans. We played House of Blues, played to a sold-out crowd at House of Blues, New Orleans, which was pretty much a lifelong dream of mine to be on a stage like that. And the band blew up at some point, and some point soon after that, I was running the band like I was running a business, and I don't think the other guys liked that so much. So that was my first taste of things falling apart, and me not understanding how to communicate, my mission the right way, and get people on board. So that was brutal. Now here's the trick, right? You're noticing a couple of years went by. So I had a pretty big nut from Wall Street, but all of a sudden, dude, I look down, that nut is gone. Okay.
Gone. All of it.
I traveled for years. Yeah, we're millions of dollars, right? So I traveled for years, played in a band, sunk all my money into the band. And then you're about to meet the really rich guy. I had no money, and I was about to not pay my rent. I've never missed a bill in my entire life. Mm-hmm. So I called up a friend of mine who used to come to my place on Park Avenue in New York, right? And I said, "Hey, you still work for that clothing company?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, do you think you could get me a job?" And she's like, "What do you mean? You're like a designer? You have like a marketing company?" I was like, "No, like at the store." She's like, "You've got to be kidding me," right? I was like, I need a job. Yeah. So I went down, I interviewed at the store, and they hired me on the spot for $12.50 an hour.
Humbling.
Yeah. Humbling. The folks that I worked with, God bless them, most of them were alcoholics, drug addicts. They'd make the money and they go spend it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can't say that about everyone there, but for the majority. And I said, man, if these people knew who I used to be, and then I realized, wait a second, dude, it doesn't matter anymore. You are who you're with. You are that person now.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. You are this. You are a loser right here with the folks that are, that aren't hanging on to their paycheck more than 15 minutes before they hit the bar. And I basically became that. And then when the realization was that was intolerable, that's when I started Resume Atelier from the break room of the clothing store.
Now, isn't it that all great comebacks start at rock bottom?
I mean, this was the lowest. It was so low because I felt like the crazy guy on the street that's like, I used to be somebody, and the guy was like, okay, pal, like, yeah, sure you did, right? Because I would tell customers, I said, well, I know a few things about suiting and shoes, and they'd say, they're like, dude, if you could just work a little harder, you get out of this store. That's my advice to you. Now go get a 9.5. So that was when I made the switch. Basically broken down into a paste, and I'm thankful for it, man, because that's how I learned how to wield creativity in a business sense. Creativity had always been music. It had been art. Now it was your back's against the wall. How are you going to survive and make lots of money?
Was there ever a time that you felt like this wasn't going to work? And you can see the glorious possibilities in front of you, but all you know is that there is a dark chasm behind you, and you feel like you're a whole lot closer to going backwards than you are to going forwards.
There was nowhere to go backwards at that point. It was so bad. I had to jet and ricochet out of it, which by the way, it took 3 months to get out of it. For 3 or 4 months. It didn't happen overnight.
And even that's fast, honestly, because that's a change in mentality. That's not just a change in circumstances. That's a change in work ethic.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it didn't. Let's put it this way. What I found was, I found that I was making, $12.50, and I convinced them to give me a raise to $14 after a few weeks. Even though I think I was pretty, wasn't the best employee they've ever seen at the clothing store. I found a way to get paid $100 an hour from the break room, right? Doing this resume writing. So I was able to buy myself some time, so I didn't have to work 7 days a week. Now I can work 5 days a week. And then it was, okay, well, now I don't have to work here at all. So then I'm building the business by writing the resumes myself for a couple months. Then I'm hiring the team. Then the business starts generating $50,000, $60,000 a month. Then I'm back to, now I can leave New Orleans.
Was it that you chose resume writing because you felt like it was something that you could do? Or did you choose resume writing because you felt like the world needed that?
So it was, without knowing it, what I was doing was market research. I was going on these freelance platforms, and I'd see what jobs kept populating. And
Brilliant.
There were a lot of people that were looking for resume writers. And I realized, I was like, well, most resume writers, not to assume that this is how all resume writers are, but if you're a resume writer, you probably weren't an actual executive. So I said, well, I'm probably the only person that held this role on Wall Street who's now on his ass so bad that he's willing to write someone else's resume. How many of these people are there going to be? I'm probably pretty unique. So I built my profile out around that, talking to people like, hey, I'm a peer of yours. I'm not the writer, who's just Googling everything that you're saying before they write it down. Like, I really understand what you're saying. So it was a little bit of market research. It was a little bit of skill. And quite frankly, I was shameless at that point. I would have done anything. I would have written your emails. I would have done anything to get out of that store.
Do you feel like everybody's got to be shameless at one point in their career or their ascension? And that they've got to basically be okay with eating that shit sandwich, whichever shit sandwich belongs to them. Mm-hmm. You feel like that they've really got to resign to the fact that things are going to be hard. You're going to do things that you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to work harder than the guy next to you, and you've got to stand out because of that. I don't know, but I would imagine that a lot of people, younger people nowadays, looking at Instagram, thinking, okay, good segue, thinking that I can be a billionaire if I just post the same tired kind of videos with the same trending music, and they really don't stick out. There's nothing that differentiates them. There is no education. There is no anything. If anything at all, it's just an attempt at self-glamorization, and I understand that we all need a pat on the back. I know I do. To the people that are looking to demonstrate their creativity, I mean, first of all, they've got to be creative. They've got to have something that is interesting, that kind of stands out among this like newspaper print kind of, online world that it seems like it's becoming. Is content creation for everybody, or can we categorize content creation? For example, this is for my family, this is for my friends, this is for my professional network. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that look up to you. My kids certainly do. I didn't tell you that yet, but my son absolutely loves your stuff. He's awesome. 9 years old. Yeah, he's really a big fan of yours. And I mean, I want to start an Instagram. I want to start a YouTube. And as a parent, of course, I try to nurture whatever ideas that he has, because eventually some of them will take root. But
right.
I mean, how do you help people classify content creation? How do you help people classify, the medium of their creativity when it comes to being online and being as popular as you are?
Yeah, well, there's two things that are happening, right? There's the ends and the means getting disconnected online, because I made a video about this the other day. This vision of the successful person, the billionaire, the millionaire, the celebrity, sipping the champagne and eating the caviar on a private jet. Like, to me, that's the ultimate image that's disconnected with how the fuck they got there in the first place, right? Because if you're on a private jet, you are probably working. there's nothing glamorous about it. That would be like me taking a video of myself like walking to a meeting. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, how exciting is that? So social media does this weird thing where you pull the meaning out of things. You pull the meaning out of things, or you use the meaning in a way to suggest something else, right? So and I'm guilty of this too, because I see it and then I do it. You use the luxury cars as a symbol of success, because I can't show you my bank account. I can show you a car, right? For instance. And then what happens with all these strategies, they work, number one, and then they become so popular that they just lose their meaning. So if you're a young kid, you think everyone drives Ferraris and Lamborghinis, everyone flies on private jets, everyone's sitting in Tulum in an infinity pool, everyone's girlfriend has 1 million followers. You create this bizarre, freakish view of what the world looks like. And like, you've got your podcast and you look at it in this humanist way. And on my podcast, I try to expose how ugly the beginning of everything is. That's what I do, because I don't want anyone to think that this is some smooth MBA, Harvard MBA, smooth ride, to whatever you want to make. It is a complete scrappy shit show, no matter who you are. And I'm interviewing people, everyone who's just in the fashion world, hanging out with celebrities, maybe doing 10, 20 grand a month, to people doing $200,000 to $600,000 a month in passive revenue and profit. I know the people. So, and it's the same process, whether you're selling t-shirts or you're selling, $20,000 a month consultant packages to enterprise companies who have stores in frickin' the design district. Right.
Right.
And I flew to New York the other day. I sat down with a Y Combinator alum, like, so the cream of the crop, right? Like the Airbnbs of the world are grads of Y Com. And the same thing with him. He would just laugh off this idea that we have this golden road to success. He's like, dude, I don't even know how, like, I've iterated my way here, so how can you show iteration on a fucking Instagram post? Iteration is invisible, man.
Yeah. Well, it's in the name. It's Insta. It is this moment. And I mean,
Right.
every time you refresh your feed, there's a whole new slew of things that they want you to look at. These things are hyper transient, these
Milliseconds.
these images that we see. Yeah. And, I go through and they show me pictures of the littlest bikinis that I've ever seen on
Right.
some of the skinniest people that I've ever seen. And
Mhm.
everybody's just, it's like a huge circle jerk of people, young people with, naturally fit bodies moving around to some great inspirational quote. Which actually brings me, I noticed for a while, right, while I was chewing on my shit sandwich, because I had to close my business, and it was a very humbling experience, and, decide, where do I go from here? I'm rudderless, right?
Well, and you close your business not because it was a bad. The problem is the external factors just broke that industry, and you say like, dude, this isn't even fair. Like this is insane.
It was not. It was absolutely nuts. So, I'm chewing on my shit sandwich, wondering what am I going to do next? And it was, I think that the hard part for me was trying to understand, what am I good at, right? And it's an easy question to answer quickly, because I'm good at everything. Everything I try to do, I do pretty well. But it's also scary because, I had my back to that chasm, and I had this wonderful world that I knew if I just took a step forward, I would get somewhere, right?
Right.
And I don't know exactly where it is, but just pick a point on the horizon and just go. And during that time, I was listening to a lot of these motivational videos, right?
Mhm.
Like, so Goggins, who I'm a huge fan of, Jocko, who I'm a huge fan of.
Right.
And I'm listening to these guys talk about being a badass, and in various clips and in various, YouTube videos for sometimes hours on end. And what I found myself doing was listening to these videos, imagining in this metaverse inside of my head that I'm this guy, that I'm this character. But at the end of the day, I didn't move the ball a single inch, right? I didn't claim any real estate. It was just me souping myself up probably for like the better part of a year. Mm-hmm. Until I decided that I was going to stop trying to keep score of, every little thing in order to measure progress, and instead just put my nose to the grindstone and just fucking work. And pick something, anything. Heard myself talking to my son, pick something, anything, but just do it 150%. And so I started doing that, and wouldn't you know it, I don't listen to any of those videos anymore. And as a matter of fact, looking back, I'm kind of upset that I did, because I wasted all that time where I could have been working 150%.
Right.
I wasted all that time, and at the end of the day, I'm still the same fucking person that I was before I listened to my first one. The only difference is now my feet are moving. Right. So that was my shit sandwich. And I think that, I've got an 11-year-old daughter now who watches Instagram, and, we're very particular about the content that she absorbs, but we can't be party to all of her conversations that she has with her friends, or the content that they're sharing with them, in the sneaky kind of way that we did when we were kids. And we try to instill in our kids a tremendous sense of self-esteem. So this way they understand that you're really just watching a fictional story play out on your screen.
Yeah, the truth is what breaks the whole thing down. I mean, you can literally just say that this is a marketing strategy that works, this type of behavior.
Boom.
Guys, this isn't, and I'm sitting here telling you that I also do it too, because it's so cheap and easy. My whole goof, and I did a video on this. I think I did a video on this. It's like how a Ferrari actually makes you money if you're in the media game. Like, there's no cost to owning a Ferrari. Every time I post a video in the Ferrari, I get 2 times as many views. I'm getting paid to drive the goddamn car.
Okay, but how do you scale that down, right? How do you scale that down to somebody? Well, there's a certain threshold, right? You're not going to make any money. For example, like Instagram Reels bonus, you're not going to make any money unless you get a shitload of views. Max is $1,200.
Let me keep going with that. I've just basically told you that all of this stuff isn't real, because I'm not saying that, hey man, this is the lifestyle, and this is I'm like, dude, it's just a tool. So then all the allure gets ripped. I'm just using the car example because everyone can grasp onto that, but it's obviously multifaceted. It's not real. So take the allure away. Take the dopamine hit when you see the watch. I mean, dude, you should see my IG feed. It's just like, how many watches and how many cars can I look at? Like, I'm being polluted with this insanity too. And I'm writing a book on why this stuff isn't real and why you should look at it as a tool to propel you instead of pull you down. Anyone who thinks this stuff is real is the rich guy who goes, out of my way, I'm a black card holder. Out of my way, I'm a platinum member. And in the skit, you laugh because in that moment, you don't even know why you're laughing, but what you're laughing is you're saying, it's so ridiculous that person is identifying with a marketing plan that someone sold them to sell more credit cards.
Hook, line, and sinker, right?
And that from a distance, whether you know what you're laughing at or not, there's this just comical disconnect. You're like, this person is a fucking idiot. Like, what are they talking about? I'm a platinum member. How dare you speak to me like that? I'm a platinum member. Is there a freaking, do you have is there a genetic, if we zoomed into your DNA, would the platinum member, DNA be in there? It's insane. So, there's a freedom here. Because when you think about all of these material things, and a picture is a material thing, the perfect picture, when you lower the importance of it to a pin, the speck or a grain of sand, it's not so scary anymore, and it can't control you anymore.
That's true. I feel like the algorithms they're getting better and better at. I mean, it's a Neuralink. It's an external Neuralink is what it is. And we're tapped into it. We're getting the same neurochemical releases as we would if we were present. So we can just sit here on our couch and not move and just scroll it past our eyeballs. And it's so, I'm guilty of it too. I catch myself doing it. And the second I do, I stop looking through it. And we don't let our kids really scroll through their devices on reels. We just tell them, like, what are you doing? You're just wasting your time. Like, go watch something else. Watch something educational. I try to get my kids watching videos on like cryptos and blockchain. I'm like, because this is how you're going to bank in 50 years. So you need to make sure that you at least understand the language. Are you afraid, not afraid, how concerned are you with now Chat GPT being able to like crank out
It's fantastic, man.
incredible results, and we can deep fake just about anybody right now. So is that a scaling option for people,
Oh,
or
man.
should we be very worried about that from the media outlets and them promoting things that they can't be certain were done by human?
Yeah, I mean, like, should we send our calculators back and go to a time when math class was just like pen and paper and an abacus? Like, dude, this is great. This is fantastic. This is evolution in the most exciting way, because the problem is most people right now can't write a goddamn email anyway. Okay. So now they have a chance to. You know what that means? That means a flatter curve. That means more people who are uneducated can write an educated email. And I think that's a great thing. This is a humbling moment for everyone in humankind. The people that this fucks with is white collar overpaid middle managers. They're the people that should be scared, dude. Yeah. No, I'm not worried about your 9-year-old, throwing his essay into ChatGPT to have it embellished or, pumped up a little bit. I mean, this is the technology that we're growing and going to have to grow with. So this empowers us.
Right.
This doesn't make us dumb. This doesn't make us inept. This allows us to unlock companies worth of proficiency from your basement. Now your son basically, hey, Dad, I created a marketing email with ChatGPT. Cool, and I fed it into an AI emailer. Great. So now I'm emailing, every whatever. I'm emailing every candy store in the area and trying to get a coupon code, whatever it is, right? Like, wow, cool. You used to need a small team to do that, and you used to need to hit up Dad for $5K to hire the VA in in the Philippines to get the ball rolling on this. Now you're just doing it practically for free.
Who does it make obsolete? It's got to eliminate a layer, right? So who does it make obsolete?
It makes expensive, non-creative people obsolete. So process-oriented people, people who are doing redundant tasks over and over again. So technology reduces human need for redundancy, stamping things, pushing things down the line, fact-checking, error checking. Like, if we can do it at scale with robotics, even junior attorneys who do this expensive thing called doc review, basically reading line item by line item a document, making sure there's no loopholes.
Mm-hmm.
A robot can do that already. A robot's been able to do that for 10 years. So it removes non-creative tasks and non-creative incumbents in the market really, really fast. And that's okay. That's okay, because productivity skyrockets.
So come down a rabbit hole with me with the Chat GPT thing, because I don't know I certainly don't understand it as well as some people, but the way that I understand it, I almost get the sense that if we were to run through all, like, from judiciary stuff, law stuff, and put all of the information through, all of the case law through, this thing will be able to figure out in a heartbeat how many, I'm just going to guess, whatever, 10,000, 100,000, million people that are incarcerated in the United States are incarcerated, like, wrongly. And that just gets plugged into a database, right?
Yeah,
so,
probably.
Right. So now does that?
That sounds pretty good if you're in jail, doesn't it?
Well, right. And it doesn't predict the future. It can't predict the future, but it's incredible at determining patterns, especially the bigger and the smarter that it gets. So, I mean, how far away do you believe, me using something like ChatGPT to just scalp crypto all day?
Well, we already have robotics in trading. I mean, even consumers can go, and there's companies that create, open source JavaScript code to put trades in and out based on some parameters. There's companies that create robots and rent them out for you now. This is technology that I would have to invest hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on my desk on Wall Street to build. And now you can rent one for $50 a month, a robot that's AI machine learning robot. Like, all of this stuff is coming down the pipe into the consumer's pocket, and that's for good and bad, because there's some powerful tools that will get you into a lot of trouble. Because trading is a really bad example of something to use machine learning on, because when we talk about, we need a stable data set to be able to predict the future. So it's like, the financial markets aren't normally distributed. It's called fractally distributed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really challenging to start to go and predict directional movements in crypto. It doesn't matter. If anything that floats on a market, whether crypto, the freaking Turkish lira, it doesn't matter. So don't get when we're in market world, I'm going to borrow this from this guy, Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He's an options trader and author. It's like, know when you're in extremistan and know when you're in, what does he call it? Just like moderateistan. Like, know when you're in fractal environment, which is the market, meaning you're going to have a hell of a time predicting the future. And know when you're in average world, where, hey, if I plotted the height of all males age 25 to 34, I had a pretty good idea how many people are 5'7" to 5'8", right? So the future of AI isn't exciting to me to just like have a better gambling machine, or to understand. I mean, think about it. If everyone is empowered with AI, we'd have this, like, everything would go to 1 or 0. Like, it would all be predicting the same thing over and over and over again. What I'm excited about is how it empowers the average person, particularly someone has no money and no formal education. Like, that's honestly where I'm excited about it, because if you're an ideas person, you can be a monster with smart technology.
Do you see an intersection for an average person, average social media user, an intersection between like ChatGPT and some of these AI art programs where they can basically have a computer generate one-off NFTs and pursue that as a venture? Does that make sense?
Hey man, if you can sell it, if you can build it and sell it, good for you. I never bought a single NFT, so that wasn't my world. I didn't look at it through the lens of, I love that art so much I have to own it. I just never found an NFT that I wanted so bad, and I never looked at it through a speculation lens. And I didn't understand it from a investment standpoint. So I stayed away from that market personally. I think fundamentally, when we talk about these graphics, I don't know if there's any, for me, there's no inherent value. I think it really depends on who you ask. But for me, if we can just rapidly generate these things for free or close to free, with something like a GPT OpenAI engine, how much fucking value could these things have? I mean, you can use it to empower your workflow, but I mean, man, I live in Miami. Okay, there's little statues of the Monopoly Man selling for $300,000 down the street. So if you could get someone to buy it, all the power to you, man. That's a marketing exercise. AI, I think, just opens up even more opportunities to maybe make money, but it might just be problematic for the NFT market. I really don't know how that plays out.
But it does level the playing field, and I think that's a brilliant remark, because I didn't consider it that way. I just saw it as a general disruptor, and I wasn't really sure why, because I can't wrap my head around it yet. But for, I mean, your resume, you probably got out just in time, resume writing, because
oh my God, you have no idea. I've sidestepped so many markets. I've sidestepped the crude oil, natural gas market, going to screens. I've sidestepped fixed income arbitrage, tech, taking that over. And then, the resume market completely was taken over by AI. There's a ton of relatively decent AI generators out there. The executives still want to use a real smart human, but what's happened is the price per job has just gone down, because do you pay, for the majority of folks who are in the mid-level part of their career, they want a new resume? Do they pay the AI generator a couple bucks, or do they pay Susie, who has an MBA or master's in writing? Susie's not cheap. Susie's got to pay her rent. So, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. It is what it is, man. I've It's like the same thing as you know, these middle managers or fact checkers or whatever we want to call these people, right? Who are risk for disruption. Shit happens, man. I watched, you know, people making millions of dollars trading crude oil, natural gas, and open outcry, you know, driving taxis afterwards. Like, it happens, man, and it's your choice about what you do next. So, um, disruption, yeah, it's the beautiful thing, and the fucked up thing about disruption is it's good for the whole. It just sucks for you, you know.
That's funny. So, really rich guy, Nick Crown, let me ask you a question. I ask all my guests this. What exactly does it mean to you to be human?
I think you have to make someone else's day easier. So I think if you can find a way to make someone's day a little bit easier, not only are you going to feel good, but you're going to get rich whether you like it or not. With technology, making someone else's day easier at scale has a huge opportunity for payback. So this isn't necessarily just like, hey, like I created Uber and now you can, you know, get to grandma's house without jumping in the car on Thanksgiving and whatever, right? Now it's like, well, I made you laugh. That's great. But now I make 1 million people laugh every day. Okay, well, that's starting to add up, right? So your little skill, maybe you organize clothes like Marie Kondo. You organize clothes in your drawer, and you're the most famous clothes folder in the entire world. Now, you know, Marie, where I'm not quite sure where she's from, but I'm sure in her small town, folding clothes, telling her friends that she loves folding clothes was seen as a bit strange. Now, Marie amplified with technology. Well, I'm quite certain that she's making millions of dollars a year from her YouTube channel, her public appearances, her consulting, and her book on organizing. So the human condition is that of collaboration, and the human condition is that of helping someone else's day get better. As far as I'm concerned,
Community.
But it's this weird thing. It's kind of like you might never meet him. You know, you might never meet the community. If you're building silicon chips, or you're building an algorithm that's about to help people, you might not meet the people that you're helping, and you just have to know that you're helping them, and you have to know that when your bank account increases, it's because you've helped a lot of people. It's a natural offshoot. All money is just stored value that's fungible. You can turn money into a beach vacation. You can turn money into a car. And the joy about all this, right? This is what I think is really fascinating. It's like, you wasted your money or you did something. It's like, well, no, I bought that car just kept a small town in Italy going. You know, this beach vacation just pumped some money into this coastal Mexican town that really needs my money for their restaurants and their whatever, their taco shops or their bar, whatever it is, right?
Right.
Everything that you spend, you're putting back into the circulation of this big machine, this global economy. You literally can't spend money and not help somebody. Think about it, right? Like,
that's exactly right.
Yeah. Even if you're buying, you know, bad shit, right? You're buying booze, whatever it is, right? I don't want to say bad shit. Even if you're buying like frivolous things, there's companies behind it. There's families behind it, you know, being supported by the business. So
awesome. So I'm going to ask you a really stupid question, Nick. Where can people find you if they want to consume your content?
Yeah, well, I don't know anymore, man. So at Nicholas Crown on Instagram, Nicholas_Crown on TikTok. You just type in Nicholas Crown. I think you'll find me. And YouTube, it's Nicholas Crown YouTube. Those are my main kind of jams. NicholasCrown.com is just my personal site, but got the podcast, trying to podcast like you now, Matt, man.
Hopefully you can catch up.
I'm going to catch up, dude. Whether you like it or not, I'm coming after you, bro. I think the podcast is one of those few things that I walk away from and I feel better afterwards, you know, because people pay me a lot of money to create a video for them or to, you know, to talk about their business. Obviously I say more than I say yes, but it's a lot to be talking to yourself into your phone. It's heavy. And when you're talking to someone else, there's an energy exchange and you come out higher than you were before. So, you know, appreciate you having me on. I'm feeling the high right now.
I love it. And, you know, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to, just made me have a thought. I want to put together everybody's response to what does it mean to you to be human? And it's funny because you're, I don't know, the 14th person that I've asked, and everybody has almost the same answer in a different way, right? If it were a Venn diagram, everybody's circle is intersecting in one space in terms
Really?
of their description. And this goes from like Barefoot Sue, who's a Wim Hof instructor, to a psychologist that I interviewed, Mike Fallon, and everybody else. It's assuring to me because we've got a gentleman of your stature and of your fame and of your consideration, and a lot of people watch you, a lot of people look up to you. And I think that this conversation helped kind of humanize you a little bit, as opposed to, pulled you out of the avatar and brought you a little bit closer to me. I know a little bit more about you, and I think everybody else does too, aside from the social commentary, and I think it's huge. I can't thank you enough, really, for coming on. So thanks, man.
I got you, man. Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you.